Russian President Vladimir Putin is arriving in India on a state visit at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. During the visit, Putin will attend 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit from 4th to 5th December. According to India's Ministry of External Affairs, PM Modi and President Putin will review progress in bilateral relations, set the vision for strengthening the special and privileged strategic partnership, and will exchange views on regional and global issues of mutual interest. President of India Draupadi Murmu will also receive President Putin and host a banquet in his honor. In this short video, I am going to analyze India and Russia's strategic partnership, defense deals, and trade amid the ongoing Ukraine war, Operation Sindoor and Trump's tariffs. Stay tuned till end of the video without skipping. Hello and welcome. My name is Shailesh Kumar and you are watching National Defense. Before we move on the prospects of upcoming visit of President Putin, let's just have a look at the key past summits and visits. In the year 2000, India-Russia signed the Declaration of Strategic Partnership, formalizing the mechanism of regular annual summits between their leaders. During 17th summit held between October 14 to 17 in 2016 in Goa, Putin visited as part of a wider BRICS context. During the 17th summit, several MOUs were signed, including in the hydrocarbon, oil and gas sector. Both countries signed MOUs for joint studies, including possibilities of a gas pipeline from Russia to India, joint investment and collaboration in hydrocarbon exploration and development. Educational training cooperation between Indian energy firms like ONGC Videsh and Russian firm, for example, Rosneft for energy sector skill transfer. Also under that summit, agreements related to defense deals, industrial cooperation, shipbuilding, joint production of helicopters, warships were also signed. In 2020, the summit was postponed first time since the annual summits began because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The 21st annual summit was held on December 6, 2021 in New Delhi. Putin visited and held talks with PM Narendra Modi. This was the last in-person summit in India before the Ukraine war began in early 2022. During this summit, India and Russia signed a landmark agreement on military technical cooperation for 21 to 2031. This governs joint research and development, production, after-sales support of military equipment, technology transfer, and maintenance. Defense cooperation under this framework includes licensed production, joint maintenance, upgrades of Russian origin equipment used by Indian armed forces, fighter aircraft, tanks, other weapon systems. On the same occasion, they institutionalized the 2+2 dialogue of Defense Minister and External Affairs Minister for oversight of military technical cooperation. The first 2+2 dialogue was held on 6 December in that year. The 22nd India-Russia Annual Summit was held in Moscow from July 8 to 9 in 24. On this trip, PM Modi visited Russia at President Putin's invitation. Following that, the two sides reaffirmed the special and privileged strategic partnership between the two nations. Now let's talk about key defense deals and cooperation agreements signed between India and Russia. In 2018, India signed a deal with Russia to buy 5 batteries of S-400 long-range surface-to-air missile systems. As of 2025, 3 S-400 regiments are operationalized and the remaining 2 are expected to be delivered by 25-26. As of now, India is reportedly negotiating a fresh purchase of S-400 surface-to-air missiles, which could be a deal worth around $1.1 billion to resupply and strengthen its S-400 equipment. You would recall that post-Operation Sindoor, the Indian Air Force and the defense establishment has publicly described S-400 as a game-changing equipment, saying the system did not let enemy operate in its own territory, implying successful neutralization of threats. In fact, on 13th May after Operation Sindoor, Prime Minister Modi visited Adhampur Air Force Station in Punjab and addressed air warriors and soldiers with Russian S-400 Triumph in the background. Now coming to fighter jets and aerial assets, India has long been using Russian-built or licensed-produced fighter jets, MiGs and Sukhois for very, very long. Over 250 of Sukhoi Su-30 MKI still remains central to Indian Air Force's combat fleet. According to sources, Russia is also pitching a version of its fifth generation fighter Su-57E for possible procurement and indigenous production. You would recall that in the air show, the Russia has brought this aircraft to Bangalore also. However, US President Donald Trump has also offered its F-35 fighter jet out of blue during the PM Narendra Modi's visit in February this year. I believe it was on 13th of February. However, India is trying its own fifth generation advanced medium combat aircraft, the AMCA, for which there is likely a deal with any foreign player for indigenous production of aero engine. India has long been using Russian platforms and labs to test its own Kaveri engine, but that capability could not be developed to power LCA Tejas. And now India has further signed aero engine deal with US for GE414 engine for LCA Tejas Mark 1A. With Russia, Indian Air Force has also undertaken upgrades and integration, for example, integration of the Joint Air-to-Surface Missiles BrahMos on Su-30 MKI aircraft for enhanced strike capabilities. If we talk about naval and submarine deals and cooperation between both the countries, then India has leased the Russian Akula class nuclear-powered submarine INS Chakra, earlier named Nerpa, under Russian origin. The lease introduced India to operation of modern nuclear-powered subtech. This was agreement for a follow-up lease. A never-slated submarine, often referred to as INS Chakra 3, originally expected by 2025 but now reportedly delayed, possibly for delivery by 2028. As per recent reports, India and Russia plan joint production and the delivery of a batch of 4 stealth frigates, part built in Russia, part built in India. The first of these frigates project under this agreement was commissioned in December 2024 last year. Others are expected by 2026-27. Defense deal and cooperation for armies, tanks, armored vehicles and land forces support also dominate Russia assets. India uses a large inventory of Russian origin tanks, for example, variants of T-72 tank and armored vehicles as part of modernization. In 2025, India signed a deal worth $248 million with Russia to acquire more powerful 1000 HP engines to upgrade these Soviet-era tanks, enhancing mobility and the battlefield performance. Apart from hardware supply, the cooperation extends to licensed local production and maintenance support under bilateral joint production frameworks. Both countries also have robust joint R&D production and strategic cooperation. The defense cooperation has evolved beyond simple buyer-seller agreements. Bilateral deals include joint research development. BrahMos cruise missile system, capable of deployment from land, air and sea, is live and proven example how it broke the spine of Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. Through frameworks like India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Military Technical Cooperation, IRIGC-MTC, the two countries hold regular dialogues, handle military tech cooperation, after-sales support, upgrades, and ensure long-term defense ties. They also conduct joint military exercises, for example, the bilateral naval military exercise Indra, which strengthens its interoperability between the two armed forces. So now comes what is likely on the table during the upcoming visit or the summit between the two leaders of India and Russia. So first of all, India is pushing for additional S-400 systems or at least resupply of missiles for existing regiment under active usage as per the sources. The upgrade plan for the tanks with new engines suggests a drive to modernize older land assets rather than replace it, which is a pragmatic step as per the sources. There may be discussions on new naval platforms or further frigate deliveries or co-production, especially given recent commissioning and ongoing work on stealth frigates. Defense industrial cooperation might expand further, possibly exploring advanced jets though the deal of earlier FGFA or Su-57E proposals remain very, very uncertain. Missiles and joint maintenance manufacturing programs, the heavy Russian footprints across air defense, S-400 frigates, Su-30 MKI missiles, BrahMos, naval submarines fleets, tanks means India continues to rely significantly on Russian technology for its core defense, a key strategic pillar. Upgrades include tanks, engines, missiles resupply, naval assets signal to effort to modernize and prolong usability of existing assets rather than rely only on new buys, a trend worth highlighting when discussing cost effectiveness versus further tech. The joint R&D and the co-production model, for example, BrahMos licensed production of jets, tanks, shows a shift from import heavy to partially indigenous production in India itself. Given global tensions like Ukraine war, pressure and sanctions on Russia, these deals reflect India's strategic autonomy, balancing international pressure while safeguarding national security. What Russia may hope to achieve from this summit beyond obvious deals. Number one, expand cooperation in new fields, for example, energy, oil, gas, civil nuclear energy, projects, high-tech infrastructure, maritime connectivity, renegotiating terms under changing global markets. Number two, institutionalizing more trade and financial linkages, may be moved towards bilateral financial payment systems to circumvent sanctions or over dependence on global financial systems. Number three, reinforcing defense cooperation, possibly including supply of more systems, upgrades, or joint manufacturing to strengthen Russian armed industry output. Number four, signal to global players, West, China, other neighbors, that Russia remains globally connected and has strong allies shaping the global narrative around multipolarity versus Western dominance. This multipolarity is important. If you recall, one major trigger for US tariffs was India's continued purchase of Russian oil. During the visit, Russia may push for guaranteed energy supply deals, pricing long-term contracts, knowing that India needs to secure energy even under international pressure. Russia could portray the India alliance as a hedge against Western trade bullying, appealing to India's desire for strategic autonomy. Now, there is another scenario where US President tightening the noose on countries that deal with Russia, helping it circumvent sanctions that helps in Ukraine war. India is undoubtedly under pressure to manage economic fallout at home as exports to US shrinking and certain sectors were hit. That may limit how much India is willing to commit to big new deals with Russia in defense, energy, because domestic economic stress demands quite attention. India may try to balance. It could deepen ties with Russia, but it might also seek to diversify exports away from Russian linked supply chains or negotiate with other global partners to avoid being overly dependent on Russia, which could curtail Russia's leverage. Since US tariffs link trade consequences to Russian ties, any deepening of India-Russia trade or defense cooperation may trigger further pressure or threaten India's relations with other global powers, particularly the United States of America. Russia must manage such risks diplomatically. In my view, both countries may move forward but will avoid a major declaration of any deal or agreement to avoid an economic fallout, as India and US likely to sign first part of the trade deal by the end of this year. What you have to say on President Putin's India visit, do let us know in the comment box. Thanks for watching National Defense. Jai Hind, Vande Matram.